Good morning, everybody. My name's Rodney Featherstone, Head of Commercial at PB Tech, and I'm joined momentarily by the magnificent Victor Marengo when he turns his camera and microphone on. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, Rodney. Good morning,
Excellent.
everyone.
So we'll just start the session today. The purpose of today's session, as you could see by the splash screen, is to run through some of the changes that Microsoft are making. We're really pleased to be able to bring this information to you, and Victor's going to lead the charge this morning and go through the content. In terms of questions, I'd encourage you to have the chat screen open. Please turn off your cameras and your microphones, but I'd encourage you to put some chat into the chat, and I will run through the questions for Victor throughout the rest of the end of the session. So we're here to help, we're here to answer all your questions, and I guess I should introduce the date. It is currently the 10th of June in 2025. We're just going to be going through the changes that Microsoft are bringing to the market at the moment and how PB Tech can help you via our licensing at pbtech.co.nz team. So we'll be recording this session and make it available for the rest of your teams should you need a copy of it. So Victor, why don't you take over from here? You can share your screen and we can start running through the content. And again,
Perfect.
just a reminder to everybody, put your questions in the chat and let's go.
Awesome. Thanks, Rodney. So a quick introduction from my side here. So I'm look after the software team at PB Tech, but there are other business units as well that falls under the team. So cybersecurity, cloud, obviously, and a component of services as well. But I oversee most of the team, and I'm pretty involved with customers, and I see a lot of familiar names into the score as well. All right, without further ado, so what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today are just the key updates that happened this year so far. It doesn't have every single update out there, but it does have the most important ones and the ones with the biggest amount of financial impact to our customers, or the ones that are introducing the biggest changes on a product level as well. Okay, so we're planning on doing this a little bit more often, short, snappy sessions, like Rodney said, just to give an overall update quite quickly over a coffee for our customers. And then if you guys want to hear more about it, you're more than welcome to engage directly with me or Rodney, or send an email to licensing@pbtech.co.nz. So let's jump onto it. The first thing that I wanted to quickly go over with you guys is something that it's pretty relevant, particularly if you currently hold an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, but not only, right? So if you have enterprise plans with Microsoft, this will be applicable to you as well. And it's basically an option for us to offer our clients price protection now, which was historically only available under the enterprise agreement. So historically, again, and Ronnie and most of you in the call will know, why would you go for an enterprise agreement with Microsoft? It's for you to get access a better price for any Microsoft cloud services that you are consuming. It's for you to get price certainty. So on 3 or 5 years cycle, you know how much you'll be paying for these plans, and support line as well, right? So you could get access to Microsoft Unified Support, which is kind of the premium support from Microsoft. So fast forwarding to now, we actually found that the pricing that we offer on the top of the discount and basing on the cost, the volume cost that we access through Microsoft for transacting so many licenses, it's pretty much on par and sometimes a little bit cheaper that we can offer when compared to enterprise agreements, right? So we got pretty much the pricing was the core foundation, I guess, feature of the enterprise agreement that we try to replicate within the NC, which is the channel that we transact under, right? Now with the pricing correct, and finally competitive on that space, the other roadblock that we had, the major one, was price protection. And that's why this is so important to all of us here. It's because I can tell you that probably I lost 3 or 4 clients that decided to renew on an enterprise agreement with Microsoft for price certainty. Even when we were cheaper on the plan, they prefer to actually know what they're going to be paying up to 3 or 5 years time. 3 years seems to be the sweet spot in New Zealand. That's the contract option that everybody goes for. So now Microsoft finally brought that feature across into the CSP or NCE program. So what that means for all of us here is any enterprise plan from Microsoft, so E3 and E5, including the add-ons as well, so Enterprise Mobility Security E3 and E5, they all have a 3-year commitment term paid annually. Okay, so it's important that you know that you have to pay annually for those 3-year committed plans, but there are no minimum requirements on how many plans you have to buy on that term, different to the enterprise agreement, which you need 500, 750, 400 plans. It's on a case by case that Microsoft negotiate the minimum quantity, but they always required you to have at least a certain number of plans into your tenancy, and you couldn't drop below that. Okay. Now under NCE, you go on.
Victor,
Yeah.
it seems to me from the outside almost that Microsoft are trying to remove enterprise agreements in New Zealand and bring everybody into NCE. Is that fair, or is that just my bias?
No, I think it's actually fair to say on a global scale because these changes are all global, basically, right? And that's, I believe that Microsoft has a high operating cost to transact enterprise agreements. And it's just the nature of it. It's a big contract. It gets negotiated on a case by case. So they are trying to streamline and simplify how customers access their products, regardless of the customer size. Okay, so they have launched the MCAE, which is a much more streamlined enterprise level agreement that they transact directly with the customer, but it has a lot more tight terms and a lot more, I would say, effective if you have 5,000 licenses on your tenant. Okay, so I think they are really trying to push a lot of clients to the NCE, and because it's just a more cost effective way for them to sell their products, if you ask me. But the enterprise will still be available. There's no word out there that they're going to be canning the channel, but this like the introduction of these features and even migration, which I'm just going to touch on in a second, just shows how they are really trying to push customers to move into there, right? And I think it's great because under the NCE is full flexibility. We can have 100 users locked in for 3 years because that's what the organization is comfortable for locking in, and not 400 for them to access an enterprise agreement and therefore have the price protection term available. And we can have a mix of monthly and annual, pay monthly, whatever way we like. So it is really cool that we have this. And if you don't have an enterprise license, currently there's like promotions that we can bring the price down as well under the same terms. I'm going to touch a little bit further on that as well. But it's the bottom line here is that we now have finally an option to lock in price for 3 years at the same time as offer the flexibility. And we can actually have both, like the best of both worlds when we are structuring for the customers. So if you are on that position right now and reviewing enterprise agreements or reviewing price protection on enterprise plans, just talk to us and we can actually come up with the best structure for you guys. The migration piece that I was referring to is that about, I think 8 months ago, Microsoft replicated the same SKU across both channels, so enterprise and NCE. What that means is customers migrating from the enterprise agreement into NCE can now retain their teams if the team is already included on the enterprise plans. Okay, this is huge again because historically, like 12 months ago, if the customer were moving away from an EA agreement or enterprise agreement, they would have lost the access to their teams plans. Now Microsoft has changed this, so you can retain your teams plans, which is pretty cool as well. Yeah, so there might be quite a bit more to cover in here, but these are basically the key updates that you can have now price protection under the NCE. So,
Victor, so if you are
yep.
an organization with less than 300 staff, which is, I believe was the minimum entry for an enterprise agreement, what are these impacts matter to you?
Okay, so if you are below that threshold, you mean, and they are not an enterprise
Yes.
agreement? Okay, cool. So that just gives you, whoops, let me just go back here. That just gives you the price protection feature that you didn't have in the past. So if you have an enterprise plan, or if you're looking at upgrading from a business premium or whatever that is, because you are going more into the Defender and implementing those Entra-ID Plan 2s, whatever the reason why you're upgrading, you can now lock in price for 3 years at whatever quantity you decide, 1, 10, 100, 1,000. Okay, so it doesn't have a minimum requirement, and that's what it's a key differentiator between an enterprise price protection and an ENC. Okay. All right. So just the second up, I guess the probably the update that got the most noise this year was that 5% price increase. It has driven a little bit of confusion as well. So we had a few clients coming to us and trying to understand if they were paying 5% more, regardless of which plan and which billing cycle they are on. And I just want to clarify this. So from 1st of April this year, Microsoft has lifted the pricing for a specific billing cycle, okay? So it's not tied to any specific plan, it's tied to any specific billing cycle. So they actually uplift or 5% increase, implement a 5% increase on any plans that are getting paid monthly, but committed to either a year or 3 years. Okay, so if you are committing to 1 year or 3 years, but you're deciding to pay for the plan monthly, you are going to incur the 5% price increase. Now, all the other plans and the other bidding cycles, so monthly for plans that are committed monthly, or annually for plans that are paid annually, or even triennial for some of the plans like Dynamics, you can pay 3 years upfront. These remain unchanged. Okay, so the pricing should be the same, and you can avoid the 5% price increase, which is basically Microsoft applying on their month-to-month payment for plans that you are committing for 12 months or more. Okay. When does that going to affect you? Is that renewal time? At that point, really, we need to sit down with you and understand your license structure, how much, 5% actually matters to you. Does it justify for you to pay for an entire Microsoft service plan set for a whole year upfront to avoid a 5% price increase? It just depends on how much, what's your cost for cash in the business and if the calculation stacks up. All right, so moving to a more specific plans update from Microsoft. So there's only a few key ones that I selected because these are likely to impact you the most. I think the top one are the Power BI Pro and Power BI Premium price increase that also happened on the 1st of April. Now, this increase was about 20% and 5% on top of that if you are choosing that particular billing cycle that suffered a price increase. So that is a huge increase for this product set. We have this coming in the pipeline for Microsoft for a few years now. We knew that was going to happen, and they finally have implemented this. Okay, now this might change things in terms of how you license Power BI Pro users, which will take me to the Power BI Capacity, which is the second update. But it is a significant price increase, and the only way that we can run from it is basically running into another product like Power BI Capacity that hasn't suffered the same price increase. Aside from those two products, that are also going to affect every customer renewal time. So whenever you are renewing that skill next, if it's after the 1st of April, you will incur that price increase. Teams Phone Standard also suffered an increase, not as much as the Power products, but around 10% as well. We don't have any other price increases on the pipeline as of now from Microsoft, but yeah, these are pretty substantial for that product set. Now, Power BI capacity. So I don't know if some people in the call will be familiar with this. So this is basically when you're running large-scale data sets and dedicated resources for your dashboards that are built on top of a Power BI platform, and you're sharing these with large amounts of users under Power BI capacity, you don't have to license an individual user like you have to with Power BI Pro, but that only usually makes sense if you have more than 300 or 400 users accessing that dashboard or those reports and manipulating it, right? So Power BI capacity is on large business, usually on large scale workloads, but they phased out the product and moved into Microsoft Fabric, which is the data lake, I guess, product set that they have launched a few years ago. And now it's built under Azure. Okay, so it's the same, it's essentially the same product. It does have a few more features, and it came with a price increase of about 5 to 10%, depending on the capacity tier that you are on. But you can either choose pay as you go, which is the consumption base from Azure, or you can go on a reserved instance for Fabric as well. So again, gives you some flexibility, and they haven't removed the product as a whole. The third, I think, is a really significant update, particularly for the New Zealand market. So historically, if you had any business set plans and you wanted to immerse and expand into Microsoft security set, so like Entra ID Plan 2, Defender for Identity, Defender for Endpoint, all those product sets, but your user base license is a business plan, you would have to buy every single add-on individually. Okay, that made pretty much unreasonable for clients to actually deploy these products if they are basically a business plan. If they have a large business plan user set. Now Microsoft has enabled the E5 security add-on, which includes Entra ID Plan 2, Defender for Identity, Defender for Office 365 Plan 2, their ADR product, which is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Plan 2, all that bundle, which is is a lot more cost effective to be added on top of the business premium plan. Okay, so if you are a smaller organization but you are concerned about security and you trust Microsoft and you wanted to explore that, you now have that option to add in the bundle on top of business premium, which is pretty cool. Couple of new Copilots launched as well. So we have Copilot for OneDrive, so you can go through the Copilot now and ask questions on a library of documents that you might have on a OneDrive. That's pretty cool, and I think a lot of people are going to make use of it. I haven't tested yet. I don't know how good it is, but if you structure your OneDrive well enough, you should be able to utilize that almost like as a ChatGPT, but dedicated to your environment, to your library of documents on OneDrive. And there's also Copilot Admin available on the Microsoft Admin Center, so you can ask questions about your environment. Again, haven't tested this, don't know how good it is, but Microsoft is jumping on the wagon and AI every single platform that they have out there, which is pretty cool. And the last, probably and potentially pretty significant for some people, is the launch of the Azure data center in north of New Zealand. So they started, the roadmap was to have all the services available by July, I believe, but they have foundational services from December this year. So it's just a storage and some other, I think some VM services as well. They are going to implement the intermediate services or whatever they call it by July, but strategic services, which is pretty much everything, it's going to depend on the market requirements for it, right? So they are, I think, testing the waters before they add more resources into the data center and enable all services in there. Now, if you have any compliance requirements internally, or would like to have your M365 users data sitting in New Zealand, that comes at a cost. So it's a skill from Microsoft called Advanced Data Residency, and it costs about $3 a user a month. for that particular user to have all their data sitting on the New Zealand Microsoft data center. Okay.
So, Victor, just going through these, if we've got people on the call that are not utilizing Power BI in their business, I'm assuming they should be in contact with us, and we'll put one of our designers and BI team in touch with them in terms of making the best of that in their environment.
That's right. Yeah. So it's very. I mean, it's a built every environment. All the Power Platform products are built differently. So, but we can actually explore on how you're using, whether it justifies for you to consider the capacity or the Microsoft Fabric, capabilities, which is more related to like reserving a specific resource within the Power BI world to run, dashboards and update faster for you guys. And yeah, absolutely. Just engage with us, and we're gonna go through the licensing and the product requirements on a case by case.
And I know that you've been doing some work with other customers around creation of co-pilots and consulting around how to utilize that and roll that out within the business. Is that something that how should customers contact us to achieve that for their business?
Perfect. So yeah, you're right. So we're doing a lot of Copilot Studio work out there. So Copilot Studio, if you're not familiar with, it's a one-to-many Copilot, right? So usually we're talking about Copilot for M365, which is a one-to-one, you buy one license. That particular user has the AI capabilities. Now Studio is a bit different. You create one robot, you ring fence the data set that you want that robot to access, being a website, a database, within or outside Microsoft world, by the way, even on an on-prem server. And then you publish the particular robot into either a Teams channel or a web-based chat bot. And you can point your users to there to ask questions. And you can trust that the questions that the robot's going to be answering is taking consideration the database that you selected, right? And that's why we call one-to-many. So you publish one, many people can use it. And you pay per consumption as well. I think it's about 25,000 prompts a year. And I need to look at the price of that, but it's a lot cheaper than M365 Copilot. Yeah, so engage with any of us and we can go through discussions on Copilot as well. All right, so after all these price increases and stuff like that, turn the mood of the call here. So let's talk a little bit about some promos that's in place. 10% discount on a 3-year E3 and E5 subscriptions. And you gotta excuse my AI doubling up some words in there, but the AI god didn't bless me this time. But basically what the first update is if the promotion is if you never had an E5 or E3 subscription in your tenancy before and you're looking to trailing on that path, you can get a 10% discount if you decide to go for the 3 years protection or commitment option. Historically we had a 15% off as well. I know that some clients, even on this call, made use of that promotion. And that's when you're upgrading for the first time ever to an E3 or E5 plan. I don't know if that's still available or if that would stack on top of this 10% price increase, but I'm more than happy to explore that if that's your circumstances. So if you had never had it before, you were considering E3 or E5, and you wouldn't be adverse to a 3-year commitment, we can look into what pricing we can generate for that. Microsoft 365 Copilot promotion got extended by Microsoft. So you get 15% off when you're purchasing more than 10 units of Microsoft 365 Copilot. And we've got a question there from Jason. I'll reply in a second, Jason. So you get a 15% off when purchasing more than 10 units, right? So if you're planning a rollout, if you've done the proof of concept, if you trust the platform, if it addresses your requirements and your needs, then at least there's a cost incentive for Microsoft for the first year for you to roll out those Copilots. And now Copilot for 365 is also available on a monthly payment, so you don't have to pay upfront for a whole year as well. And the last one is more on the Azure side. Since we talked about the Azure data center now in New Zealand, for some businesses, that means it's now feasible for them to move into workloads from on-prem or even other private cloud providers into Microsoft because their data is going to be sitting in the country. For their Azure offers migration, Azure and PBTech really, migration and credits for clients shifting from any cloud provider or on-prem into the cloud, and that migration and dollars can be applied as a credit on consumption, or it can just be put as a credit on PBTech store if you prefer that. Yeah, that's about it.
Excellent. So Victor, we've got 4 more minutes left. We've got a question here from Jason regarding whether Teams is included in the E3 and E5 plans, and what's the approximate cost of an E5 security add-on for Business Premium?
Okay, so the E3 and E5 plans does not include Teams, Jason, unless you already had an E3 or E5 plan with Teams in your tenancy 18 months ago, which is before Microsoft implemented those changes. Okay, so if you hasn't had that, then you at least the official terms is that you have to purchase the E3 or E5 without Teams and add Teams on the side. Okay, approximated cost for E5 security add-on. God, I'm gonna have to look that up for you. I will send you some pricing. I'll send everybody here pricing for the E5 security add-on. I think that's better for Business Premium.
And Paul's just got some questions about Microsoft Azure cloud consumption, whether we can help with that, and also supporting the MPSA licensing.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to get back to you, Paul, with that, because Azure on offers that are basically historically part of the EA, which is a lot of consumption-based or credit-based system. It's something that's looked after by somebody else in the business, and we're gonna get back to you with that, if that's okay.
Excellent.
So,
thank you, Victor.
yeah, so just one last slide here. So some strategic recommendations. Really, like licensing reviews should be done on an annual basis. So if your provider is not PBTech, because we do this every year with our clients, but you should be getting this from your provider. And if they're not doing that, you should come to us, because this is it's really important that we take these updates on board when we're doing that. Consider NCE and CSP if you are on an enterprise agreement, at least as an option. You know, let's look into the flexibility. Let's look how it looks like for your specific environment and if you can take advantage of it. And yeah, consultation, just schedule a meeting with us. We'll have a chat and we'll see if we can improve things, reduce costs, and just be an overall better provider.
Excellent. Thank you, Victor, and thank you everybody for attending today. We really appreciate it. What I've done is recorded the session. I'll do the editing and chop off the beginning and the end, come back to you all with a copy of the video, and we really appreciate your business, and we appreciate you working with PBTech. Yes, we'll be in touch and look forward to seeing you at the next one. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.